Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Megan and it's been a while. I have not done my wrap up for January and February yet and all the books I read in those months, so we're just gonna jump into it. So we're gonna start with all the books I don't own that I read throughout January and February. First, I read The Legend Quartet by Marie Lu, and I read these as the regular novel editions in January. And then I also did the trilogy of graphic novels of Legend, Prodigy, and Champion. Overall, it was a fun series for the first read through, but I probably will never read it again. I ended up giving Legend, Prodigy, and Champion, the novels, 3 stars, and then I gave Rebel 2 stars. I personally felt like Rebel was an unnecessary addition to the series. However, I can totally see why people loved it if they loved the series to begin with, because I know if one of my favorite series came out with another book, even if it's unnecessary to the plotline, I would love just reading more about the world. But for me, it ended up being 2 stars because I didn't fall in love with the world, so it was really unnecessary to me, and I kind of wish I was just like not reading it. Legend follows 2 characters and 2 perspectives. We are following Day, who is part of the kind of peasants of this world. There's this faction or this test that people have to go through to like elevate their status. However, the test is kind of rigged so that even if you are scoring really high, if your class is low, they're just gonna send you out for killing instead of elevating your status. So it's kind of a rigged, horrible situation. Day was actually a participant who tested really high and ended up going in for slaughter, essentially. So he is kind of on a revenge streak against the government. And then we are also following a girl who tested high, but she was already a higher status, so she's part of the soldiers, and she is kind of infiltrating the lower class to find out where Day is, because Day is a high suspect of the government because he has had this revenge streak. So we're following those 2 characters and all the political moves they make throughout the series. It was fun again, but again, not something I think I would ever pick up again. Also, the graphic novels were good, but I don't believe that they would have been good without the context of the novels. I feel like they would have been really confusing and a lot was missing from the graphic novels, but you have a lot less space to work with, so that kind of makes sense. Next, I read Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly DeVoe. This is a girl sent off to fat camp in which the fat camp is invaded by zombies. This was another one that I enjoyed reading for the duration of reading it, but it's not something I would ever pick up again. It didn't stand out to me. It was just kind of a fun read, so I ended up giving it 3 stars as well. Next, I read the trilogy of The Winner's Curse, which includes The Winner's Curse, The Winner's Crime, and The Winner's Kiss. This series is by Marie Grutowski. I ended up picking up this series because Illumicrate did special editions of it. You can actually see me unboxing the special editions in my most recent Mythical Mail Monday, which I will link up above. And in that series, we are following a girl who is a higher class, and she ends up just like out of sympathy or pity or something taking in the slave, and then the slave and her kind of form a relationship, but the slave is actually kind of spying on the family, so that it's like an enemies to lovers type situation. It was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed the series. However, I do think I'll sell the series because, again, I don't think it's something I will reread in the future. Then I read Under the Whispering Door. This is not a sequel. I wouldn't even say it's a companion novel, but it feels in the same vein as The House in the Cerulean Sea, and The House in the Cerulean Sea was one of my favorite books of 2021, so I was going into this with some higher expectations. It was good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. However, it was not as good as The House in the Cerulean Sea. We are following a guy who suddenly passes away, and he goes into this like limbo coffee shop where he's learning about how horrible of a person he was, and he's trying to like repent for the type of person he was. And finally, in January, of the books that I read but don't own, I read Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I adored this book. It's a nonfiction book. It's about the Stanford University sexual assault case, and for a while the victim was only known as Emily, and she came out and she wants people to know who she is now because she doesn't, like, his name is out there. I'm not even giving him the opportunity to have his name on my channel, but his name was out there, and she was like, well, if his name is out there, and why shouldn't people know my name too, like that sort of thing. So it went into like great detail about her experience with the actual assault, and then the repercussions of the assault with the court system happening. And it's intense, definitely trigger warnings, but I think it's a very important read. Then in February there were only 2 books that I didn't own but read. The first was The Tempest Runner, which is actually on its way to me. It just hadn't been released yet, except for the audiobook. The physical copy is releasing soon and is on its way to me. Tempest Runner is following Lorna D, who's one of the Nihil in the Star Wars High Republic series. So we're really following her backstory. If you don't know who the Nihil are, they are kind of the villains of this series. And then I started The Switch by Beth O'Leary. I found it interesting at first, but just could not get into it, so I ended up DNFing it, unfortunately. Okay, now on to the books I read and physically own. We'll start with the sequels slash finishing series kind of stuff. First is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. This is the second and final book of the These Violent Delights duology. These Violent Delights is a Romeo and Juliet retelling in 1920 Shanghai. Our Violent Ends I actually enjoyed more than the first book, and I really loved the way Chloe Gong interpreted the Romeo and Juliet tale, and especially the like ending of that tale. I really enjoyed the way Chloe Gong pursued that in her story. So next I read Gods and Monsters, which is the third and final book of the Serpent and Dove trilogy. This one was actually better than Blood and Honey for sure. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and we are following our characters as they are on the quest to kill Lou's mother. This one has a lot more Coco background, and it gets back into Lou and Reed, which is the aspect of Serpent and Dove I really liked, and we kind of lost that in Blood and Honey, so it was nice to see that again in Gods and Monsters. And it introduced a new element for a villain character that I thought was really cool, with like a possession kind of thing happening. So I thought that this book was definitely a big step up from Blood and Honey, and I was happy that I enjoyed this one because I was really nervous going about it. Blood and Honey I did not like at all, and I'm happy I liked this one. Next are my book club books. First, as you know, I've been doing the Poppy War read-along, so I read the Poppy War, which is the first book of the trilogy by R.F. Kuang. In this, we are following Ren, who has I don't even know where to begin with this story because it is such a complex story that I feel like if I talk too much about it or give too much of a synopsis, I'm gonna give spoilers. But we are following like political intrigue and war, and Ren, who is from Tikani, which is like a lower class southern city, and she was adopted, and she's been told her whole life that she's kind of worthless. If she were to die, no one would care. Her only purpose is to like keep the population going, and her only purpose is to like marry and have children. However, she wants more than that, so she studies her butt off and gets into a war school. So we are following her at the school and through war and that sort of thing. I adored this book, 5 stars, and just finished The Dragon Republic, which I'll talk about in my next month wrap up. But oh my gosh, you guys, this series is like top tier series. Next I read Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson, in which we are following a girl who was in a cryo tank, and she wakes up after thousands of years, and these people believe that she is a goddess because she's just been like not alive but alive and just sleeping kind of for thousands of years, and she was there when they arrived, so they just put her up as this goddess, and she is tasked as the goddess to save them from the like biodome they're in is starting to break and cause these like glitches almost across the like kingdom, and it's her task to solve this issue. And the twist at the end was not what I was expecting, but I think it went really, really well, and I can't wait to pick up Devil in the Device, which is the sequel. Next was Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This was interesting to read so close to Goddess in the Machine because this also follows a girl in a cryo tank. However, she wakes up after like 200-ish years, and she is gifted with being the trigger for this huge war that is happening within space. You learn more about what that means and who the enemies are and everything throughout the book, but essentially we're following like a space crew, and I love like teams and following teams and getting attached to like characters and their training and everything, so that was a lot of fun for me. It gave me Skyward-ish vibes, like Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, but not quite. But we're following the Alpha, the Diplomat, the Scientist, the Gearhead, the Warrior, the Pilot, and the Mystery Girl. The Alpha is Tyler, and he is like the top-ranked Alpha at this school. However, when he was saving Aurora, our main character, the draft was happening, so he got all of the like misfits. So it's like a team of misfits, and it's so fun. Next, I read Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I think this is actually my first book I read in 2022, and it was a great start to the year. In this, we are following a girl whose stepmother is a sorceress, which she like slowly learns, and the stepmother curses her brothers and her. So her brothers have been turned into cranes, and she has been cursed with this like bowl on her head, and the bowl keeps her identity hidden, and if she speaks or utters any sort of sound at all, one of her brothers will pass. So she is just like mute. She can't tell anyone who she is, and she's trying to like locate her brothers, break the curse, and get back to the kingdom. And it's a wild ride, and it was so good, you guys. 5 stars. Then I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is my favorite Taylor Jenkins read so far. I really enjoyed this one. I wasn't sure if I would like it or not, but I heard that it was a retelling-esque of Marilyn Monroe, and I love and I'm fascinated by like Marilyn Monroe's life. So this was so good. I loved the like twist-ish thing, and it was really fun and unique to follow Evelyn's life through each of the 7 husbands. And there was just amazing quotes in this. It was such a good time. I highly recommend the audiobook. And finally, I read Race to Crash Point Tower, which is the middle grade of the first arc's second wave of the High Republic series, in which we are following these 2 characters. One is Ram, who is a like mechanical Jedi, and he uses the Force to be like a mechanic, and he's very gifted with this, so he's hesitant to join like battle and that sort of thing. And then we're also following Lulu, I think is her name, and she is like determined to become the best Jedi ever, but with that, of course, there's the issue of like perfectionism and attachments and that sort of thing. So this was a fun little middle grade. It follows the events of Republic Fair, but from a different, like from their perspective and them trying to restore the communication tower. Moving on to February. I read quite a few Star Wars books. It was just a Star Wars time for me. I read Out of the Shadows, which is in the same arc as Race to Crash Point Tower. And this one we are following specifically like Vernestra Rowe and her Padawan, as well as Reva Silas, which are 2 of my favorite characters, so that was a lot of fun. And they are tasked with this, what they feel is an unnecessary task for them as Jedi, and Renestra in particular, she is a very young Jedi Knight, and a lot of people think that she was like put as a Jedi Knight too young, and so they look down on her, so she feels like this task has been given to her because she's young and she's being used as like a pawn for pettiness and that sort of thing. So I just love these stories and the intricacies of each of these characters, and yeah, and the ending, you truly don't know who to trust or what's happening in these books. And then I read The Fallen Star by Claudia Gray, which is the adult novel of the third wave of the first arc. And this one is truly the book that makes you just say don't get attached to anyone. This one hurt, you guys. This one follows the events of Starlight Beacon, and I'm not gonna say more than that, but oh my gosh, that hurt. Yeah, I still am in pain thinking about that. Then I picked up the graphic novel for Star Wars, and this one follows Kiev, who is Skier's Padawan, and she just became a knight, and it's her and Avar battling the Drangir, which are like the plant villains. Yeah, I'm excited to just, I love the Star Wars world now and the universe, and it just makes me so excited to be part of it and like learn every aspect of it, because I'm doing the adult novels, the graphic novels, the comics, the manga, the middle grades, the young adults, the movies, the TV shows, the video games. Like, I'm just fully immersing myself in this Star Wars universe, and it's been so fun. Then I read When Night Breaks by Janella Angeles, which is the second and final book of the Where Dreams Descend duology. And this one we were like following exactly where the final one ends, so I don't want to say specifically what we're following, but I really enjoyed this, and I think it has great motives and messages. That's the word I'm looking for, and it was just a fun read. Yeah. Where Dreams Descend, we are following Kalia, who is a female sorceress, and female sorceresses are frowned upon in the society, and she has like put it upon herself to join the traveling troupe conquering circus competition to be the headlining act. As she is in this competition, her co-participants are just dying off or being maimed or that sort of thing, one by one, and it deals with like the sexism of this world, but also just like the inner conflict of the powers and that sort of thing, specifically with Kalia and her love interest. So it's a fun time. Next I read Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, and I'm gonna be honest, I did not enjoy this one at all. I wanted to so badly. It sounded so good. I just could not get into it. We're following a male couple in which one guy, his partner was murdered, and he is the prime suspect in the murder investigation, and his new partner is trying to like relieve him of being named as a suspect, and it's just a wild time, but I just could not get into it, and I just could not bring myself to care about these characters, unfortunately. I wanted to so badly. So yeah. And the final book of February, and probably my favorite book of February, other than like maybe Star Wars, because that's got a special place in my heart right now, was Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which is a retelling of Goose Girl, but from the villain's perspective. I loved this story. I loved everything about it. I have no complaints, honestly. It was so good. Okay, so those are all the books I read in January and February. Let me know what you guys read or what you think I should read in March/April, and I'll check in with you in my next one. Bye, friends.